What a difference a half of football makes. The DJ here is really earning his money. We've had Freed from Desire. We've got people standing on the tables and chairs, and you can hear Three Lions, Badil and Skinner is ringing out around this fan park. Lee Hendrie watched the game with me, and Lee, at half-time, these songs seemed a very long way away. What a difference 45 minutes can make for this England team.
Well, that's it. I mean, listen, the game's all about 90-plus minutes, isn't it? So we can't literally go off that. You know, we need to believe that we are going to go and win games, and that's what I felt. I mean, listen, the first 20 minutes was nobody near good enough on an England point of view, but I felt we've grown into the game. The second half was very slow, but once we got that goal, I knew that we would go on and win the game. We certainly should have as well. The boys are buzzing off, as you can imagine. Listen, it's a big thing for us, isn't it? I mean, it's a game that we certainly should have gone and won, and we come away and we won it. So that's the main important thing. I said about performance today wasn't really the main thing. It was all about getting into the next stages of the World Cup. We've done it. I still think there's a lot to learn from, obviously, today's performance. But, listen, going into the next match against Mexico, we need to be really on our game because, you know, to concede early on in the game was a massive blow for England. But I like the response. I like the fact that we did respond and we have won the game.
Yeah, we'll get on to Mexico, in the heat and the stifling altitude. But in this game, and in general in this tournament, where would England be without their captain?
Listen, Harry Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. There's not any doubt about that. And he's proved it again today, hasn't he? You know, I watched the game and you're looking for someone who has got that X factor, that special moment in him. And that's what he's all about. You know, he can drift out of games, he can not be in games, and all of a sudden he can pop up with magic moments. He's done it yet again. We can't depend on just Harry Kane though. That's my big worry. You know, we need big players to turn up. Bellingham's turned up this World Cup. There's a lot more players out there that should be doing a hell of a lot more. And that, for me, hopefully going into these next stages of the group, we see more players turning up, because if we do, you know, I think there's still more to come from England.
What did you make of the tweaks, the changes that Thomas Tuchel made? Because there was a point in the game where even though England had so many chances in the first half, it felt like it was slipping out of their control.
Well, listen, I think, you know, momentum's massive in football, isn't it? And that's where, you know, we wanted probably the half not to finish because we were on such a roll. We looked like we were going to maybe go and score a goal. We had good chances. And then Thomas Tuchel has to look at his bench. That's why he's picked a squad of players to go, right, we need to bring players on. We need to change the dimensions. We need fresh legs. He did that. He brought Gordon on. He brought Saka on. He said he just needed something freshening up. We needed new ideas. And all of a sudden, we get that all-important goal, which, again, I said about momentum, that's what it's all about. But to be honest, the Harry Kane second goal was absolutely brilliant.
Some goal, wasn't it?
I mean, that's all about Harry Kane. That's all about him having the initiative, the awareness of where he is, and knowing he doesn't need to look where the goal is. And what an unbelievable finish. I mean, you talk about good goals this World Cup. That is a big, massive goal for England, and Harry Kane as well. You know, looking at top scorers, he's definitely going to be in the thick of it. That's, with England keep doing what they're doing, more players helping him out during this latter stages of the World Cup. What a player.
So Lee, that's the positives. England are through. They live to fight another day. They go to Mexico to face Mexico. There's some negatives to get into here. The defence and the goalkeeper Pickford being beaten at the near post for the early goal. They could have been 2-0 down.
Well, it could have been, and that's, you know, the ifs and buts about football, isn't it? I mean, listen, Jordan Pickford will be disappointed he's got beaten at his near post. There's no doubt of that. Goalkeepers, that's the rule number one, isn't it? You don't get beat your near post. And that was the only really area that he could have got beaten at. Listen, I always look at things where, you know, you look at the incident where they could have gone 2 up and you think Visa should have scored. That's football. You know, if you don't take your chances, you can get punished. I always believed that we were going to win this game, even at 1-0, even if it went 2-0. I thought that Congo, they certainly offered enough for us to go and expose them. We weren't as clinical as what we can be. And you know what? There is lots to pick out of this, isn't there? Because we're conceding goals really cheaply. And that is my concern about coming up against the likes of France and Argentina, Brazil, where you know that they are going to be clinical. you can't give them the opportunities that we give teams in these earlier stages of the group, and obviously tonight again. So that's something that Thomas Tuchel has to be aware of. I think it'll be different if we do approach them teams, because we do need to be more aware of attacking players and probably not so much going out all attack, where we have had to go and do that in these games. That has obviously progressed us to where we are.
Which other players caught your eye on a positive side of things? I have to say, I was quite impressed with the way that Declan Rice grew into the game and took it by the scruff of the neck as the game wore on, especially after missing the final group game against Panama.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Declan Rice is, you know, he's a big leader in the camp, isn't he? Look at these boys, they're loving it. This is what it's all about, though, isn't it? I mean, Declan was brilliant. Again, he worked hard. You know, he does what he has to do as a leader in that midfield area. But you can't take anything. I mean, for me, Harry Kane was absolutely brilliant again. You know, but for the times he has to produce things. You know, we've got a world-class centre forward in our grasp. We need more people contributing that will give him more space, because teams are going to look and try and nullify what Harry Kane does. I was waiting for something to fly over there. But teams are going to look at that and try and stop what Harry Kane can do. Not always can you do that, but that's where other spaces create, and that's where other players have to contribute. But Harry Kane was brilliant again, not just for his 2 goals, but his whole contribution. Declan Rice was excellent. We've got the result we needed, and it was needed desperately.
It felt like England were a little surprised maybe with the way that DR Congo approached the game. They came to play. This was not a super low block performance from them.
I'll tell you what, I've got to give them a hell of a lot of credit for the way they did approach the game, because they didn't sit back in that low block that we've seen in the previous games. They came out, they really attacked, they tried to expose England. It wasn't a counter-attack sort of performance. At times they did have to defend, but I felt that maybe that suited us, and that's where I said about teams that do sit in that low block, we struggle. I think credit to them, they did come out and they did have a go. They did realise that they could expose England, because I think they knew England would come and attack, and they knew that they had pace in them forward areas, and they could possibly go and make it 2-0, and maybe then they shut up shop. But do you know something I always say about being clinical in these games and these tournaments is so key. If they were clinical, it might have been a different story. It wasn't the case. We did what we had to do. We have to be so much better. There's lots of things I'd love to criticise about the game, but we've won. That is the all-important thing.
The next thing, looking ahead to Mexico, I imagine, is that England probably can't afford to go behind in a game, because it's going to be so wearing on the body to play at altitude, sapping them. Ultimately, if they fall behind, they're going to find it even harder to get back into it.
Well, they are, and I mean, listen, they've had a lot of preparation. Let's not get away from that. There's preparation coming into the tournament, but you do have to understand that they have got to manage this game even more so. Not just for it being a knockout stage, but obviously, as you said, high altitude, the way that they approach the game, their fitness levels, they're running around sort of thing. So, for me, they have to be bang on their game, and I think it will be a different approach. Maybe it will be a bit more defensively. Maybe it will be a bit more defensively from us on counter-attack style football. I think that's one thing we will have to manage the game, and that's where Thomas Tuchel earns his money. This is where you have to obviously put all these teams that we're coming up against into context. There's going to be times where we have to sit back and obviously work our midfield and use our counter-attack ability with our pace in wide areas, but we do have to understand a massive game on our hands.